Juana Sotomayor. Welcome to St. Kitts and welcome to our Good Morning SKN exclusive. I'm going to begin with your role. What led you to this role? Did you study for this role, and what are some of the duties as a human rights advisor?
Thank you very much for this invitation, and I'm glad to be with you here. I am the Human Rights Advisor to the UN Resident Coordinator for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. This is a role that is very linked to human rights work, which I have done for over 20 years. And thank you. Prior to this position, I was in the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights in Geneva, working as a human rights officer. So yes, I did study. I studied law, I studied human rights some years ago, many years ago, and I have worked in different positions in different countries on human rights. And you also asked me what it entails.
Yes.
As a human rights advisor, I have three main roles. The first one is to provide assistance, cooperation to the governments in this region, in this sub-region, in relation to human rights legislation, human rights policies, to align them with international human rights instruments. The second one is a very important one because I am advisor to the UN agencies, to the resident coordinator and the UN system in the region on human rights issues. So provide them with information, guidance, assistance in the different projects, joint projects, and activities that the UN is carrying out. Many of them in relation to the SDGs, yes. As you know.
Yes.
And the third one is to interact and accompany civil society and persons of different kinds in the countries in relation to their human rights.
Oh man, you have a big portfolio, I would say. So during a little chit chat, you mentioned that it is a regional activity and not a national activity. And I want to know, your federation, you're in the federation, sorry, for a week to conduct stakeholder consultations with persons or for persons with disabilities. Can you share some of the aims of this workshop and the outcome that you hope for, and also with the outcome, would there be a document that will put certain principles into place for persons with disabilities?
Thank you very much. I am in St. Kitts and Nevis for this week. It's my first time here at the invitation of the Federation and the government to work assisting them with awareness raising and capacity building about the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and disability inclusion. There are a number of initiatives by the current administration in relation to the development of policy, legislation, public awareness campaigns, and also a survey in order to better understand who persons with disabilities are in St. Kitts and Nevis. So we have held stakeholder consultations in Nevis with civil society, the private sector, public sector, and we are doing the same here in St. Kitts today and tomorrow. There will be not necessarily a document, but some recommendations, some ideas for action that the government will take on board as they continue to develop their policies and programs in this area.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. So tomorrow, November 25th, is the day for eradication of violence against women. And it also starts a 16 days of activism, which ends on Human Rights Day. We know that gender-based violence is a human right violation. What are some of the activities that are being put into place to curb violence against men and women?
Okay, thank you very much also for bringing this into our conversation. Indeed, 25th of November is a date where all eyes focus on violence against women and girls. And violence is a pervasive form of discrimination against women and girls. 1 in 3 women around the world have suffered violence many times in their family or in their close relatives, their close circles. Violence diminishes the person's capacity to exercise her rights. And there are many issues related to violence that are still very concerning. In the last years with COVID, we have seen an increment of violence against women around the world and in the Caribbean region as well. There are many actions that are very important to fight violence against women and girls. First, we need to talk about it. We need to stand up when we know about violence. We need to denounce it. We need to act. The second one is to protect the victims. Very important to protect them. Third one, empower organizations of women, empower women in different positions, ensure they have a seat in the table for policy and decision making. Many policies have changed because women were at the table in relation to violence. A fourth point is we also need to discuss some of the stereotypes about girls. Girls are children. Yes. Any woman under 18 is a child, regardless of how this girl is dressed or where she is. That is not an invitation for anything, and there is no consent possible for a girl under 18. Yes. Another important point, and with this I will finish because I could continue, the other point is to fund organizations of women and girls. There is a need for public awareness raising, for feminist discussions, and this can only be made when organizations, different kinds of organizations of women, have the funding, the capacity to go out and do their work. So a number of activities are planned, but these are the main messages for these 16 days of activism, leading to 10 December, the Human Rights Day.
Let's talk about that. It will be the 75th anniversary of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. Are there any particular events and activities to commemorate such a momentous occasion?
The 10 December starts a year-long celebration.
Oh, a year-long, nice.
Of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Yeah. It is a document that has changed the way we relate to each other and we understand human diversity and inclusion. One of the articles of this declaration that you have probably heard and everybody probably has heard is all human beings are born equal in rights, yes. Free and equal in rights. This is a very powerful article that has led to many changes. We will start this year, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, the UN system, will be celebrating in different ways the importance of inclusion, the importance of human rights for SDG implementation, the value of diversity in our societies. All of us are different and all of us enrich our societies with our differences.
So tolerance is definitely needed.
Yes, but more than tolerance, okay. Ensuring that different voices are part of the discussions, okay. That we go beyond, for example, since we are talking about disabilities in these stakeholders, a person is a lot more than a physical disability. Mm-hmm. And their contribution, the contribution they can make to societies in all aspects of life are critical. We cannot neglect any person because of particular impairment, a physical impairment. And we have to fight prejudice against persons with disabilities, against difference. Women have suffered it. There are many grounds of discrimination, and I think it is important, very important, to remember that we all benefit.
Just before we let you run away, what are the top 3 human rights that we as humans have?
Well, I can never choose.
You can never choose.
I could never choose because from a human rights perspective, we always say that human rights are interactive.
Okay.
So for example, interdependent
Okay.
and indivisible. So for example, if I say the right to health is one of the most important. The right to health is linked to the right to life, is linked to housing, your housing conditions, food, it's linked to education. Sometimes if you don't have enough education, you cannot understand the right to health, you cannot have the information available. Participation in decision making, freedom of association are also relevant for health. So all these different rights will always be linked. Okay. When we talk about human rights, we talk about a network of different aspects that make our life, the quality of life, on equality with each other, possible.